Well, in this video, we're going to learn about what is called the economics of one unit, commonly referred to as the EOU. Now, the economics of one unit is a type of financial analysis that'll be done by entrepreneurs and business owners to try to get a better understanding of the cost to produce one particular item, or let's say a unit of something. So this analysis is typically done early on, and it's usually sort of kind of a way to determine the financial viability or feasibility of a business idea. One of the first things we want to do is we want to figure out if we can sell the item profitably. So if we're losing $5 when we sell each item, it doesn't matter how many units that we sell, we're always going to be losing $5 per unit. So whether we sell 5, 10, 15, 100, 1,000, it doesn't make a difference. So although revenues are going to be obviously growing, it's a misleading picture because our costs are also growing kind of at that same rate. And regardless of how many we sell, we're never going to be profitable. So the logic behind the EOU is we want to be profitable when we sell each item that leaves our stores, leaves our websites, or if it's a service, every contact that we have. Because if we're profitable with each interaction, with each unit of sale, we're going to be profitable when obviously we scale. So the first thing that we have to figure out is what we call the unit of sale. And this unit of sale is used to represent the quantity of which we sell particular items. And so, commonly we think the unit of sale is one, so it's one product. And this is really not the case. Unfortunately, there are some businesses that simply sell more than one of something in a common, let's say, interaction. So let me give you a few kind of examples so this kind of makes sense. Let's say you're a manufacturer. In a manufacturing setting, your business model is dependent upon selling a large quantity of goods. So you're not going to be selling one product because that's not a very profitable model. You have to do a lot of transactions to make money. So if you're a manufacturer, you're going to sell things in bulk. And I mean, you're going to sell them in pallets and truckloads. And that is how you're going to do business. So when you're pricing your products, because you're not selling them as single items, it makes sense for you to price them based upon a larger quantity of goods. So maybe for a manufacturer, your unit of sale might be one pallet. So it's a collection of goods. And within that one pallet, you might have, let's say, 100 items. And so when you're developing or determining the costs to provide this good, you're going to look at those 100 items. You're going to figure out how much it costs to produce them with materials and the labor that goes into them and shipping and those types of things. And then you're going to find out that cost, and then you're going to price with that amount in mind so that you can cover those variable costs. Now, let's say you're not a manufacturer. Let's say, and this is really common, especially for student-run businesses because they're very inexpensive to start, at least relatively speaking. Let's say that you're a service firm. And so instead of dealing with tangible goods, you're obviously selling something that is not tangible. You're offering a particular service. And there are really a number of ways that you can calculate the EOU for a service company. The most common way is to, use kind of this aspect of time. So instead of going based upon a physical good, because we obviously don't produce them, we're going to price based upon something. So let's say I'm a CPA. I might be able to price or cost myself based upon one billable hour. And so I might go through and figure out really, well, what is the cost for me to provide this service for an hour? And let's say that's $50 an hour. Well, now I know what the cost is. So what's my desired level of profit? And then maybe I'll charge $90 an hour, and that would be my billable hour. That's obviously really low for an attorney. This is just an example, though. Let's say we're an accountant or a CPA. We can do the same thing. We can charge based upon hours. We can also charge based upon specific services. So maybe if we're an accountant and it's tax season, we can price ourselves based upon one tax return. And so we would have to determine the costs associated with providing a tax return, which includes the filing fees and the kind of initial tax preparer that goes through the return and looks through all the documents that are submitted by the customer, and then our time as the CPA to review those filings for accuracy, and all those different things that are involved with providing a tax return. We get a comprehensive list, and then we have a good understanding of what it's going to cost us to provide. The key here is we're going to use this information to better price our products. Unfortunately, there are a lot of costs involved with providing goods and services that people just don't think of initially. We're really good at thinking about all of the really kind of obvious, explicit costs. So the things where money changes hands, where we're buying materials or we're paying for something particular. But we're not very good at pricing things like our time or some of the smaller things that go into providing a service. So maybe it's a transaction fee. So we buy, if it's tangible goods and we accept credit cards, there's a transaction fee associated with that. May not be hugely significant for each item, but they add up over time and it diminishes our margins for each item. So the goal here with the EOU is we're generating this comprehensive list to try to get a sense of what it truly costs us to produce our product. Because then what we're going to do is we're going to use this knowledge, right? Once we figure out if it costs us, $15 to produce a product, and this includes everything from direct materials, which are the costs associated with directly producing an item, to direct labor, which is the labor associated with producing the item, and also includes our other variable costs, which are other things that go into the item. So I commonly give the example in class of a coffee shop because I'm a fan of coffee. And so direct materials in this sense would be things like coffee beans. Direct labor would be the barista's time to create drinks. And other variable costs would be things like cups and lids. Now, there are obviously more associated with that, but those are just an example. You could say transaction fees also, those types of things. But that just gives you a general idea. So if we cost our product out and we say that it costs us $15 to produce this item right here, well, now the discussion takes place. And that discussion surrounds the idea of, well, how much do I charge? And the beauty of it now is I have an accurate understanding of what it costs me to produce. So I am much better equipped to answer this question of how much do I charge? So if it costs me $15, I know that I need to price myself higher than $15. Now, how much higher depends upon the type of business that I run, depends upon the products that I sell, depends upon if there are substitutes available, because if there are a lot of substitutes in the market, I can't charge drastically higher prices since there are other alternatives available. So I have to take those into account. The other thing I have to take into account ultimately is how much will my consumer pay? Or I should say, how much will my customer pay? And this is an important aspect of pricing because we know that if it was this just great kind of universe or great world, we would charge as high as we possibly could, but we know that ultimately our customer sets the price for the product. So what happens is let's say it costs us $15 to produce our item. So this is our cost to produce. And the customer isn't willing to pay more than $15. We're in a very interesting predicament. So we can either not produce the item and move on to another idea, or we can try and drive down the costs associated with production. We can look for ways to decrease costs, whether that's looking at materials, looking at the labor we use, looking at our other variable costs. We try to be creative. But going back to kind of the importance of calculating an EOU, if we don't do this type of analysis, we don't know what opportunities we have to cut, we don't have an accurate understanding of costs, and we go into a business without a good understanding of if it's financially viable. And so these are really important things to work through. So in the next series of videos, what we're going to focus on is we're going to try to tangibly compute our EOU. And so we're going to talk more specifically about direct materials, about direct labor. We're going to build out and talk about contribution margin. And our goal is that by the end of this is we have a very detailed, down to the penny understanding of how much it costs us to produce our product.